How antitrust is targeting Apple, Google, Nvidia. Chinese officials are compiling a list of U.S. technology companies that they can target with antitrust investigations and other measures, aiming to influence tech executives who are closely associated with President Trump. Sources familiar with Beijing's strategy indicate that the objective is to gather as much leverage as possible for anticipated negotiations with the Trump administration regarding U.S. China relations, particularly concerning the tariffs imposed on Chinese goods. Beijing has announced investigations into Nvidia and Alphabet's Google over alleged antitrust violations. Other American companies under scrutiny include Apple, the Silicon Valley tech firm Broadcom, and semiconductor design software vendor Synopsys. Notably, Synopsys is awaiting approval for a $35 billion acquisition by Beijing. China seeks any leverage it can find to retaliate against the U.S., and antitrust actions are considered highly effective, according to Tom Nunlist, a Shanghai-based tech policy specialist at the consulting firm Trivium China. China is on a chip-gathering exercise, Nunlist said, comparing the situation to a game of poker. They want to enter negotiations with something to use as leverage. Recently, American companies have been less inclined than during Trump's first term to advocate for China, and these threats of antitrust actions may backfire by discouraging companies from investing in China, something Beijing wishes to promote. In 2020, China established an unreliable entity list, 4 companies, paralleling a U.S. entity list that restricts Chinese technology leader Huawei and others from conducting business with American firms. In 2022, China revised its antitrust law to impose stricter rules on anti-competitive mergers. Chinese officials aim to capture the attention of key figures in Trump's circle, including executives who were present during his inauguration, such as Google's Sundar Pichai and Apple's Tim Cook, shortly after an additional 10% U.S. tariff on Chinese goods went into effect. China announced an antitrust investigation against Google. This move stemmed from China's frustration in 2019 when Google, adhering to U.S. regulations, restricted Huawei's access to the Android operating system for mobile devices. Consequently, Huawei lost access to Google's apps and proprietary software, forcing it to develop its own operating system. Another retaliatory action occurred in December when the Biden administration intensified controls on China's access to advanced semiconductors. A week later, China began investigating Nvidia, a leading maker of powerful chips for artificial intelligence, concerning a merger from 2019. This investigation is focused on whether Nvidia unfairly discriminated against Chinese firms by halting sales of certain products to them. Apple has faced opposition from Chinese tech companies over its practice of taking a percentage of revenue from app developers for in-app purchases, such as buying game tokens. Tencent, a leading Chinese video game company, and ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, have expressed concerns to Apple about what they perceive as unfair app store policies. Some officials view Apple's fees in China as excessively high and believe that its payment rules hinder competition. Consequently, Beijing considers Apple another card it can play in negotiations with the U.S. Mergers involving multinationals typically require approval from antitrust regulators worldwide, and they can collapse if they fail to obtain even a single major country approval.